Hey everyone, welcome to the Flowtography info session with Dresden and Vitz and Jason. We did some introductions. Y'all take it away or do more introductions. We can edit them. Okay, bye.
I
Fix
I
it
think
in
I think
post.
I think we've got like a good array of different places for us to launch off of here. So if anyone else like has other things they want us to talk about, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I think now is maybe a good time for us to launch into the material. Um, and just to like kind of quickly recap the intention of this. So, this is a follow-up from the workshop that we did at Kindle Northwest, where we kind of talked through like camera settings, gear, and all of that stuff, and like some of the flow of taking the photo itself. So the intention of this is to be a little bit more focused on like the post-processing things. That was the thing that was really missing from our presentation there. And as we said at the time, is really its own session. But if there's interest in doing more photography workshops, I think that's something that we're all open to. It's mostly a scheduling issue because we're all very busy being out in community, taking photos of you and others. So please let us know if there's uh, interest in additional ones. Um, all right. So again, thank you everyone for giving us like a good launch point. Uh, Fitz, Jason, where do you want to start on this?
I guess ideally, who wants to go first? Because again, like when we were discussing the concept of this class, it was very much of like you guys get to see us go through the thought process. So it's kind of like thinking of like when you're watching like Let's Play of like video games, where it's just like for me, I'm just like I'm literally just going to be explaining my thought process of like I'm going to be taking a batch of photos like that I myself have not even gone through yet. So you'll see a live culling of like I will go through like to me it was just like we'll go through the picking process. I will show you exactly my thought process of what I deem as like a good photo, and I'll show you it's like, hey, this is how I manipulate my sliders and the program that I use, just to kind of give you that in depth. So again, the idea is just to see the thought process behind all of it. So, if people want me to go first, I can. And if that's the case, I'm actually going to allow chat to help me pick. So what I need, throw in chat as fast as you can. I will need three digits between 1 and 5. And I will pick so I see a 5, 2, and 4. All right, perfect. So give me a second here. Let me get all of this going. So 4, 2, 3. Let's do this. 4, 2, and give me 1 second. Because, yeah, so the photos that I will be culling through will be from sea compression this year. Um, and I don't know where this is going to be in sea compression, but we are going to find out. 7, 3, there we go. Perfect. So, for context, as I get this booted up, I shoot on a Canon R6 Mark II for sea compression. I was also photographing on a 70 to 200 millimeter lens f2.8. Um, let's see here. What else can I say? So I do all of my editing in Camera Raw, which is a base program that comes with Photoshop. This is actually what Lightroom originally was before Lightroom existed, apparently. So I was just like very excited to find out about that information. So let's share this, hopefully. All right, and everyone can see my screen just fine.
Roger, Roger.
Perfect. Perfect. So, as you can see, I am literally staring at the void of darkness. When I am editing or when I'm taking photos, the one thing I always try to keep in mind is not to blow out my highlights. So again, everything I'm trying to match here is for the set of the fire, so that way I'm not blowing anything out. So, as you can see, it is dark. I myself cannot see what even I have here. So one of the first things I'll do is I usually just click auto and edit and try to let it decide for me so it can brighten it up for me. And that time around, it definitely did absolutely nothing for that, which is great. So then I'll just kind of slide everything around so I can get good visibility out of it. Again, I'm like bring up my shadows, bring up my exposure levels just so I can see it. Oh, sweet, we're going to be doing Blaze's set. All right, cool. So now that I can kind of see the image that I'm working with, so I'll take just this basic start and I'll basically select and copy and paste it all to the rest so I can see everything else that's going on. So as I'm going through these photos, it's basically looking at like, all right, so what is my scene looking like? What is my performer doing? And it's pretty cut and dry type stuff. So it'll be one of those things where for me, I will be like, all right, so the fire is looking pretty good. The pose is like not all that great, but I can't see my performer at all. So to me, this is trash. Performer's gone. This is trash. 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 This is okay, but I think it could also be better. It's also a little bit too dark in the face, so that's trash. 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 Again, it's just one of those things like it's just a lot of going through a whole lot of nothingness. Um, and it looks like I actually cannot see my chat at all. So I guess if I have someone where it's just like, yeah, want questions or anything like that, throw it out to me. Or if you need me to stop, I'll totally stop. All right. All right. So again, it's kind of one of those things where again, like getting a little bit something better out of this. So maybe I'll hold on to that one. That's definitely a lot better. Hold on to that. Too dark in the face, too dark in the face. The pose is really good though. So with this, it's just like if I had more in the face here, I would definitely like keep that one for sure. Because again, like the pose is really nice. The f position of the fire is really great. But again, kind of pass, pass. I love this stare down right here. But again, it's just coming in just a little bit too dark. So that's a pass. That's coming in real nice. So hold on to that. Kind of lose the face, lose the face, lose the face. Lose the face, lose the face. Again, like when we're saying when we're shooting, we're basically spray and pray for the majority of the time. So again, it's just like we'll have far more misses than we will hits. So again, if you're like, man, I'm shooting like so many t taking so many pictures and I'm getting next to nothing, it's just like, don't worry, I am too. I am liking this position, so I might hold on to that one. That's a little bit better. That's a miss. So again, even things that I'm also taking consideration, as you can see, I have the poi here on the left side is completely gone. And I don't want that. So to me, that's just absolute trash. That's loss of face, wrong side. That's a little bit better. That's a maybe. That's a lot better. That's gone. Cut off the poi on the left-hand side, so that's trash. Wrong side, bad framing. Trash, trash, trash. Trash, 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 more trash. That's awful. Could be a lot better. Gone, gone, gone. That is actually not half bad. That is gone, 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 gone, gone. That's actually not too bad. That's gone. And even still, like after I'm done through all of this, a lot of these will also get cut at the end of the day to kind of see what I have that's accumulative of like, all right, how many real rock solid photos do I have versus like kind of the middle of the road. And again, I try to eliminate middle of the road as best as I can. I was taught when I was doing portfolios that it was just like you always want to showcase your best stuff and only your best stuff. So if you're kind of like thinking about it, you more or less want to get rid of it. Like you should like instinctively know. And that just comes based off of your own like styles of like taking pictures and what you like as far as your art goes. So those ones were not half bad by any means. And I will try to be a little bit more conscious of time. See if BJ was or if Blaze was facing me just a little bit more, like all of this would probably be really good keepers because again, like you can see still got some really good details in that fire. And by even dropping down my highlights, I can bring more of that detail back. This is all trash. And I do love watching BJ do their flow. It's so much floor work, but it's always so cool and just like very creature-esque and it's always so much fun to watch.
See, and Vitz, we got some questions piling up in the chat if you want to take a moment to answer some of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see chat. Hold on,
Okay.
let me actually see.
So
Okay, there
I'll
we
read
go.
them out loud here if you want.
Nope, nope, I got it figured out. Sorry. All right. Finding time greetings. Let's see here. Where are we at? Okay, so the program name that I am using here, yeah, is Camera Raw. It is built into Photoshop directly. So if you open up Photoshop and you take your raw files, just drag and drop it directly into Photoshop. This is the program that will instantly pop up for you. Uh, got some presets for, yeah, presets. Yeah, I have a few presets that I do. But again, I just always kind of I'll get to that when I start actually manipulating some of these photos. Uh, as far as asking performers what they want, I will ask performers what they want when I'm doing a one-on-one session. This was at C compression, so we basically had an open fire circle with some fire performances, like designated fire performances in it. Um, I typically will not ask because this alone was about 5,000 photos that I took that night. And so for me to like find each individual performer, have them go through it, get it back, it's just way too much back and forth. I've tried it before and I've always gotten mixed results. It's also the same way, like I don't let performers pick their photos, especially in this kind of calibration. If I was doing a one-on-one session with them, it would be a completely different story altogether because at that point, like they are my client and I want them to have what they want. But as far as like silhouette shots and all that kind of stuff goes, like if I can find it and I think it's an absolute banger, like I will keep it. I did some light scrubbing of this album earlier, and I think I found one of like Pumbaa who was doing rope dart, and I had one of these backlights from the other building just blocking his head, like the back of his head, so it had like perfect like hairline lighting for it. It was absolutely amazing. So I definitely was like, that's kind of a keeper on its own. Um, let's see here. Yeah. All right, cool. I think I got everything. All right, cool. So again, I will try to get us to at least one good one because Blaze always delivers. Let's see here. Yeah, see, even this one, I wish it was just like a little bit more fire here because again, this is kind of towards the tail end of their act, so we might be getting next to nothing kind of situation. So might be able to pull this and salvage some of this, might not be able to. Only one real way to find out for sure is the post-processing of it. That's actually not too bad. All right.
As a very quick note for anyone who's curious, in incredibly tiny text at the top right, you can see the camera settings that this photo is taken at. So for the image on screen, it looks like ISO 250 on that 70 to 200 lens at 900 millimeters, f3.2, and shutter of 1 over 500 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you can see this for the rest.
Yeah. And it is one of those things like again with this digital age that we're in, like you can salvage a whole lot. So again, like I have had this discussion many times with other photographers as far as just like again, when you see the original set of this, it comes in looking like this. And a lot of people are like, I need to fix this in pre. And to me, it's very much of just like, yes, you should always like get your camera adjusted to how you want to be able to take your pictures. But this is so much of a leap of faith because the technology and editing, or the technology in our cameras and the editing that we have capabilities for now, is just like I can crank this out so far. Like again, this is at adding an additional 5 stops to my exposure alone. And then I can drag down my highlights. And then again, like you have denoising technology now too. So again, I can smooth out all that noise and then again just kind of drop my shadows, kind of make it so again I have all this noise that I can easily reduce, so I can have shoot at a low ISO. Usually when I'm trying to shoot fire, I'm not trying to exceed anywhere above um like 800 ISO anymore because my camera's capabilities can actually bring out so much of that. But again, I am very much shooting blind, so when people are like, oh, I want to see what I got, like what you have of me, I'm like, you can take a look, But again, all you're gonna see is like, a whole lot of this. It's just gonna be a whole lot of nothing. Because that's what I see. But again, I'm just putting my faith in like seeing the moment where I saw it, trusting that my camera has like knowing that my camera has the information that I need, and then again, I'm just trying to be like, all right, I think I have what I need to work with. So I think, yeah, I'll just kind of start going through the editing process of this way you can see everybody else's. So starting with this, again, I have next to nothing here. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my exposure levels up so I can actually kind of start seeing my subject in the photo here. So I'll kind of bring it up nice and high, be like, all right, cool. So this is where I am at. That down. Um, and then I'm kind of moving my sliders along. So again, have control of my exposures, my contrast, my highlights, my shadows, my whites, and my blacks. One of the things I found is like I could crank my contrast, which is kind of your pops and colors. I try to keep it a little bit low on the gray side, and I'll get to why that is in a little bit. As far as my highlights go, I try to keep those back down because, again, this is where I'm going to bring in the details of my fire. The other thing that I also like to do is I drop my whites basically down to nothing, because now this gives me I have all the white removed from my photos. Now I can bring my highlights up, which allows me to, from time to time, bring more of my subject back into it. And then it also helps it so if I have blown my highlights out, my whites aren't like bright white and it's not like blindingly white. So that's kind of what I do. I will also, from time to time, I'll bring my shadows up just a little bit. Not too much. Again, I kind of want to keep my shadows dark, especially when I'm shooting in the void of black. And then I try to bring my darks down. So kind of working with this kind of basis. Again, this isn't like a rock solid image in my mind, but it's definitely enough to work with. So from here, now we go down to our effects. And this is where I'll be bringing up my clarity. So again, now I'm bringing in more detail of just about everything in my image. So this is like when people get into like a little bit too crazy with this and they like crank that. I try to keep it a little bit on the lower side. Again, I'm trying to bring in the details of the fire and my subject just a little bit more. And this also, to me, this is how I now control my contrast. So again, I'm trying to eliminate like the use of contrast because I'm not trying to bring my color pop up. I'm just trying to bring more detail into all my subjects. So I'll prop my clarity up, and in doing so, I will also be bringing in all this noise that usually ends up happening. So what I'll do then is I will drop my texture. So my texture side, I'll drop that down a little bit. And this helps create a nice smoothing of everything down. And then what I'll end up doing is I'll take my luminance here, which is all the noise reduction, and I bring that up. I try not to exceed it more than 20. Because at that point, then like when you start really bringing that smooth, then you start getting into like that whole debate of everyone just being like, "Oh, it's just like AI, it's just like completely photoshopped and it doesn't look natural at all." So again, like having some noise is not bad, but again, I do want to smooth it out just enough so it just looks good. Like, it looks presentable in a way where it looks nice and clean. And then after that, I usually will fuck around with my dehaze, which is usually meant for like if it's like really kind of atmospheric. I usually drop it down just a little bit to kind of create a nice little haze effect that I like to do with. Um, and with my camera, um, we have this thing. I have my optics, and that is built into my camera, is basically one of those things where it does a built-in profile correction. So what profile correction is, if you're shooting with like a wide angle lens, you'll usually have that kind of curvature to the photo look. My camera built in has profile correction built into it. So what it'll do is it will automatically flatten the image. I don't think you'll be able to see it as much. So if you kind of look towards the red in like this kind of area, so where this person is on this side here and kind of over here, you will see a little bit of it kind of doing that bending in and out. It's a lot more prominent with wide angle lenses, so like your 35 millimeters and like lower, you'll definitely see that more of a prominent thing. But one thing that having that kind of curve is that it gives it a natural vignette to it, which I also really like in having that as a photo. But so what I'll do is I'll go into my vignette because I actually can just artificially create a vignette. And I love doing this as my cheat because of the fact that like any darkness or any of the noise that comes in around the edging can now be eliminated. So again, now I'm just getting rid of noise wherever I can and just kind of introducing shadow wherever I can. So again, kind of get it to a basis of like, yeah, no, this is nice. This is what I've like. Um, as far as coloring goes, now getting into the white balance of it. Um, I'll tr like it's one of those things like it kind of comes down to flair, like what I like. I try to keep it as natural as possible. With this set alone, I found I have a nice white building, so I actually have an eyedropper tool that'll just completely customize the white balance set to it. So I kind of set it to like a neutral tone automatically, and then from here I'll just kind of like balance it out to like where I really like it. And then after that, once I kind of get everything where I want it, I have presets that I like to use from time to time. For my sets, I have an array of settings. So these ones right here are professionally bought. I will use them for more for artistic purposes than anything else. But again, they kind of just will really change the color profile of an image along with all these kind of things. They're all tuned and all this like kind of preset type stuff. They all are used for different things. So I have like it's kind of hard to tell with fire, but if I had like a model subject and natural light and all that kind of stuff, you really start seeing it come through. But one of the ones that I like to use is in my vintage number 6. This is where if you look a lot on my work, I have a lot of matte blacks in my photos. This is the setting that I use is my vintage number 6. And then I can slide this down. So what this helps me do is it helps get rid of a lot of this extra noise in the shadows. And it also just kind of creates this nice smooth that I really like. I also just really like having the matte look to a photo. It's just a personal preference of mine. Again, like you can kind of dial it however you want to see fit. So again, it's just kind of getting it down to that. And then I'm kind of like from here, I'm just kind of like, all right, cool. Like, what can I do to kind of bring this out, bring this out? And again, it's just a lot of playing around and just kind of getting it dialed into what I like and what I feel is good. And then once I kind of get it to be like, all right, cool. Like, I can totally work with this. And this is kind of where I like it. What I'll then do is I'll take this one setting and then I will copy and paste it basically. So I have this tool right here that allows me to synchronize all of my photos with this one setting. And now all of my photos are set now with this. So now when I go back and I'm like, all right, well, let's go back to scrubbing all of this. Everything is now set to what I basically have it as. So now I can be like, all right, it's cool. So now I know what my end results are. Yes, now we got a much better one as we go through. And that's just how this process goes. So now I can see it's like, great, based off of these settings, based on how I like it, more or less like this is how the rest of these albums are gonna go. Any questions? Because it is one of those things that can definitely eat up with so much time of just me running through this whole gambit.
See, I don't see any fresh ones in the chat, but if folks want to jump in with additional questions or come off mute, please feel
Yeah.
free.
How do you deal with distracting backgrounds? Like I'm noticing there's like the two lights in the background that are really like different tone
Oh,
than
for sure. So however, this one is a little bit crazier as a background. So for something like this, I probably would not do a whole lot with it. But it is one of those things where, again, the beauty that I have of, I guess this one will work for this. So for me, again, this is built in with Photoshop. So what I can do is be like, all right, cool. I want to edit this image directly. I click open. And what it'll do is hopefully this won't boot you guys from my share. Let's see here. It looks like it did. Give me one second here. Okay, cool. Perfect. So this directly opens into Photoshop. So now I have all my Photoshop tools with me. So what I end up doing is we have this tool right here, which is the like patch tool and spot healing. This is all I use. This is all I do. Way back in the day of Photoshop, you had the clone stamp tool, and you literally would have to clone stamp your whole entire like anything you wanted gone. You had to clone stamp and fix your background to this. The patch tool is a lot easier on that because now I can just basically be like, I want this right here section to match this section here. And just like that, it's gone. There are also, like, again, it's one of those things. There are also, like, with Photoshop being what they also have, is they also have a removal tool, which uses artificial intelligence to recognize subjects and be able to remove it. Again, it's kind of one of those things like if I wanted to remove, say, this window here, I can essentially select all of this. And what it's going to do is be like, all right, based off of AI and what I'm recognizing, I can now pattern that this is a wall. And it'll just kind of take care of that artificially. Again, this just comes down to being use of tools. Again, most of the time I just use this selection tool because that's really all I need, especially when it comes to backgrounds. And I can just be like, cool, that's gone, that's gone, that's gone, that's gone, that's gone. It does get a little bit finicky. I have been doing a whole tarot deck, aerial tarot deck, that I photographed, the entire 78 cards. And I had wood flooring, and it's kind of one of those things where when you get close to subjects like this here, um, like it will kind of cut off a little bit on the weird side, and it kind of will merge textures in a way that you don't want it merged. So I will take my clone stamp and I will have to go around an entire subject and then kind of fill it in. So again, it's not a perfect system, but it is a system that does work well for me and what I'm trying to do. So I could theoretically take all of this and be like, all right, cool, we'll make this match like this. Go in through here, kind of make it match like this. Because again, that background is kind of blown out and really doesn't matter all too much. And to me, this still looks insanely messy. So I probably would just keep going and going and going and going and going until I had it right or redo it and all of that. So again, and then even from this phase, I can also take my finer tools like my dodging and burning tools. So again, if I had blown highlights or I'm like, oh, I need more on the face, I can take my dodge tool and I can now put a little bit more on the face. So that way it just brightens it up a little bit more. Um, I will do that for some photos. I definitely don't do it for all. It depends on like kind of the context. Because again, like if I go in and fine tune edit a jam like this, I will be at it for days. And like it's our my recall time for stuff like this is still bad enough. I think what is it? I finally got Levity out in October and I photographed that in July. So again, and that was also like 6,000 photos that day of just fire performance predominantly. So it is just one of those things. It just takes a lot of time to kind of do these things. But if I had an into specific client, if I was working one-on-one with somebody, then yeah, I definitely would take the time and really make it look pretty because they are going to be making their selections, they are going to be making their picks, and I want them to look like as pristine as possible for them. Yeah, and yeah, doing presets is definitely one of those things that's like super helpful to as far as like having cheater tools of just being like, if I know this is going to be set to this, this is what it is. The only problem I have with like doing like hard presets though, with my fire photography is like so much of it is atmospheric. Fire Circle at Kindle is significantly brighter than Fire Circle is when we do our CFAC jams. So again, I there's so much more excess light that it can kind of screw with my own system. Not to mention the ebb and flow of performers can kind of change that too. So if we have like a packed fire circle, like it's going to be nice and bright, but if I have one or two people out there, it is dark. So it's kind of like my settings are going to be flip-flopping all over the place. But again, it does in fact help. Uh, sorry, I know it's a lot of photo like info dumping on you guys, so hopefully you guys are able to keep up.
You covered a lot of ground that I don't have to.
Perfect.
All right. Any other questions for Vitz? Otherwise, we can. I'm happy to go next. Jason, unless you're biting at the bit to go.
Nope, doesn't matter.
Here for the info dump. Well, oh, good. You're about
Yep.
to get more. All right. Anything else for Vitz?
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. No, that was really cool. I'd actually never seen like a live culling from Vitz before, despite having
Same.
been on the receiving end of photos from him. So that was awesome.
hmm
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and screen share here. All right, are folks able to see my Lightroom?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead ahead and make this a little bit bigger. All right. So I'm also now not able to see the chat. So if someone wants to chime in live or read me questions that are pertinent to the thing I'm doing, that'd be super helpful. All right. So the thing I have here is just kind of where I left off in my editing this morning with in August Fire Jam. So for folks who don't know, I co-organized a monthly Fire Fusion Jam here in the Bay Area, which are always themed. And this particular theme was Spice Girls of Arrakis, which is going to be relevant in a moment. So I've already kind of made myself partway through this jam, and a couple of notes about this fire jam. So there's no like external lighting to this. So this is mostly shot like right after sunset. These are also largely people I'm kind of familiar with, which really helps in terms of being able to guess, like knowing their movements and when that lighting is going to be right in their face, right? So there's sort of this like, built up knowledge of like how these people move. However, they are not posing. They are in their own world, dancing their ass off. So I have to spend a lot of time, like when I am taking photos, like scampering around, try to get the right angle. So what I'm doing with this is I'm not even when I'm taking photos, like trying to do a lot of composition. I am saving that for posts. I'm shooting with post in mind here. So I'm going to be doing like a lot of cropping and just doing my best to try to get these folks in focus as much as possible. In terms of like culling here, so things that I'm going to be looking for initially. So I'm seeing like, did I get the person even in focus? Here, their face is covered and not even like artistically covered, right? So same as Vitz, like this is just like an easy delete for me. However, here is like, ooh, there's actually kind of this like nice fire trail here. So in terms of like what I might do to see if this photo is something I want to salvage, first thing is like, well, I definitely want to like shrink this down quite a bit. So here, like I'm really using these guidelines to help like create the composition I couldn't in the moment. And I'm like, okay, what else do I want to do? So for the theme, and because I really like creating presets for a theme, I'd actually already created one for this. I'm gonna like redo it live. It's like, okay, so we had this like Spice Girls of Arrakis theme. So I want to warm the image up a bunch, right? And there is a lot of different like AI tools within Lightroom now, and they're constantly changing, which makes it a little bit challenging. But it can help you do like a really quick pass of like, okay, so I want something that's just going to like get as much of the subject as I can to help pull out those shadows. So this is Amy, who I know really well, who gave consent to have her photos edited live here. And so she has like really light skin, so it reflects the light pretty easily. So I don't have to do like a ton of modification here. We do have like a little bit of blowout though now because Lightroom is not particularly smart when it comes to these AI settings. So I'm going to go through and actually manually remove a lot of those highlights from what Lightroom thought I wanted to have selected in terms of the subject, right? And I've got like a little bit of blur here. I sometimes like a little bit of blur because it implies movement. And a lot of what I'm trying to do is like capture the sense of dancing. And I just like love the smile she has here. But I'm noticing it's kind of getting lost, right? I kind of like the way her face is covered here. So I might pull that in a little bit more. And so that's like enough for me for like a first pass. Like, hey, I kind of like that. And so what I will often do is so I'll copy the settings and knowing that over the course of a particular burn, there's going to be less and less lighting, right? So I know as opposed to doing a blanket preset for fire, I'll often like iterate each photo I select because I'm going to want to change the settings one at a time. So here, like, she's got like a beautiful smile, but the fire is like all the way down here. And like the posing isn't like, well, it's not posing, she's dancing, but like the body positioning, like, I don't feel like really captures like what I like about her movement. So these are ones that I'm going to be deleting, but like, oh my gosh, look at that smile. Do I want to keep that smile? We'll see. So this is where like, I'll go ahead, grab the settings from the prior one. So I've got this like really nice, like warmed up small photo. I'm gonna like someone with like a rope dart in the background there. I'm gonna kind of shrink this down. So this is like kind of more of like a portrait here. Kind of want it to be like a little crisper. So this might be me like, for example, pulling up clarity like a little bit. Maybe pulling up whites a bunch, but like I'm not doing like a ton of editing at this point. And I went through and then I just copied those settings, right? Because like as I'm shooting, it's probably going to continue to get like a little bit darker. Here it's like, okay, like she just decided to like toss her arms up in the air. Like I was not able to like capture that extension. So these are out of frame. I'm not going to want to keep them. Maybe I want to keep this. So
Hank
that I can
wanted to
like
know
really,
if there was any
uh-huh.
culling before editing.
No, so I'm doing like a really quick first pass on editing as I cull to see like if I do this like bare minimum edit, is this something I'm gonna want to keep and do further refining on later?
Okay.
So I have not even looked at the rest of these yet. So you guys are seeing this and hearing my live commentary as I'm discovering these. And here like don't think I like I kind of like the posing, but like the face feels like a little awkward to me, so I'm gonna give this one a skip. So she has noticed me in this image. So here's like, do I want to keep this? Like face is like reasonably crisp. Not like a ton of like really good fire detail here. Can see if this is something I can like salvage in terms of some of the fire detail, or it might be something where like I like the positioning on it enough that I might keep it anyway. So I'm bookmarking this one to come back to later. And here again is like where kind of being able to just like copy the settings from the prior one is really helpful, but there's some I can just look at without even copying the settings I know I don't want, right? Like this one just kind of feels kind of meh to me. Same with this. Not quite sure about this one, so this is a place where I'm like, okay, well, here we get like a little bit more detail on this. I'm gonna kind of pull in this cropping here, see if that does anything compositionally for me. Still not like a really like strong image. None of these feel like particularly strong to me. Looks like we have some other folks. So this is where like when shooting like a jam setting, like there's just people coming in and out constantly that I have like no control over. In this particular fire prop, like the fire is like really, really small. There's not a lot to work on. So like I'm focusing a little less on the fire here and a little bit more on her face. Let's see what we got here. So I'm coming in really, really close here. So here though, like it's not quite crisp enough to really like, and here I was like shooting up enough that you get kind of this like awkward angle on the neck here, which I don't quite like. So this is one I know I'm gonna toss. Probably this one too, but I'm seeing there's like a slightly different angle to the neck. Still not something I like. And she's moving like pretty rapidly with these, right? This is someone who comes from like the partner dance community. So we're not getting like a lot of like really like good really good fire textures with because someone is like she's moving so quickly with them. Here like I have like a little bit more fire trail, still like not like super stoked about the expression here. Here really good positioning, but I missed the kind of full capture on these like antlers here. So like
I
had
have
I not
someone
go
I
ahead.
have someone asking of do you care about maintaining aspect ratios while you crop?
Kind of depends on what I'm shooting for. So if I'm getting a little bit more finicky here, so I'm not like really messing around much with that here. So here, like I might do a rotation here, but with aspect ratio, like I find like when you're changing aspect ratio, and for folks who aren't familiar, that's on Lightroom, like all of these settings down here typically. It often kind of makes the person look like something they aren't, right? It can make a photo often, if not done really well, like it changes the proportion of the person's body as they're moving with it. So you kind of get this kind of like uncanny valley feeling where people's like arms or torsos feel a little bit longer or shorter than they need to be. It's really rare that I do anything with aspect ratio and like in doing transforms. Oh wait, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was thinking about aspect ratios in
Oh,
terms of like just transforms. Yeah. Whew, okay, totally different tangent there. Um, sorry, my brain went into like landscape photography mode. Not in particular, like I'm mostly shooting for digital, so like the proportions of the image, like I don't really care about. As soon as like I stopped doing prints, that wasn't something I cared about. I not really a big social media person. I'm not largely posting with the intention or creating with the intention of things that go on Instagram or that go on Facebook or whatever, right? I'm here to make art and capture cool things with my friends. If I'm shooting for like a client, like I'm doing like a studio shoot, I might ask them like, hey, what's the intention of this? And then that might be a situation where I'm being much more deliberate in how I'm taking photos for a number of reasons, but also with the aspect ratio in mind, knowing which media it's supposed to end up on. But for like a fire jam, no. Or something that's like going to end up on like someone's personal website, probably not. Sorry, yeah, I went down like a very different thread there initially. Does that answer the person's question? Can't see the chat here.
It was actually my question, right? But yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
oh, hi, hello. Because I was curious, as you're kind of doing the initial crop, I know you're not doing like a constrained crop, so the aspect ratio of what you're sizing on the
Yeah,
photo is varying. I didn't know if this mattered or not, but it sounds like it does not.
yeah. Yeah, again, like I've never been chasing likes or anything like that, so I'm really not shooting with Instagram in mind, which like breaks my heart when I do postings on social media rarely, and it's just like, oh, you messed up my cropping. But I would rather create the image that like I want to create in terms of like the composition for this stuff. On this particular one, so I kind of snuck this in while I was talking there. So I had my filter here, and I actually like popped the whites up, and like even though there's like this cropping up here which isn't ideal, I kind of like the posing, like the way that the fire's kind of framed here, like around her face with the antlers. So this one might be one that I keep for more work later, but here, totally covered, don't want it. And that looks like all the photos I got of Amy there. So kind of on to the next one. You can see it's like a little bit later. In the jam, it's a lot darker. So when I go ahead and like apply like that prior preset I made here, just to get a sense of like what this might look like. I'm not sure why I shot that so tall. But this feels like really like not very dynamically. But this one, on the other hand, oh, I know why I shot it this way, is because my camera is on fire. I had a little wick sticking out, so shooting everything vertically. I remember now. Anyway, um, I had to do it. I had to do it after Kindle and forgetting to do it in the fire circle.
Right? It's so
So I've
much
got
fun.
like, yeah. So here's like one of Corey, who's one of the other organizers for the Fire Fusion Jam, and like really like strong posing. Fire is like super blurry though, so I'm not like super stoked on these ones. These are mostly tosses for me. This one I've got like a little bit of texture, but still not particularly strong. I suspect part of what happened here is I don't think I had my polarizer set the way I usually do. So here I've got this filter I had set from earlier. Doesn't really bring out any additional detail. So if I wanted to try to like save some of that fire detail, this is something you can sometimes do, is you have this like really nice like brush feature in Lightroom. And you can see like how much can it save. And if you pull down the highlights, you can get like a little bit of that texture back, which like for like a jam photo is probably fine. Considering I was shooting from someone far away and my camera was on fire at the time, like I think I did okay. But it's sort of this trade-off here, like how much can you actually like salvage in this? So I might come back to this one, seeing if I can like refine it a little bit more. I'm not sure if like he's about to drop it here, but this is where you can kind of go through like so I've got kind of these like slightly different settings I've made here, and I can continue to like just do this really quick pass, see if there's any others that I like.
Michelle
Mostly
was
seem like they don't
wondering why
have.
you shoot with the polarizer.
Oh, yeah. So this is something I talked a little bit about at the Kindle Northwest workshop. So I actually shoot with like circular polarizer. And sometimes I'll do two. And if you offset them, it can help with like reducing the highlighting and helping prevent some of that blowout before you get to post. I'm gonna drop the screen share really quick and I can actually demonstrate that. Oop, that's not the right button. Please hold. Where
I wouldn't
did stop
imagine
screen share button
until I
go?
asked the question that that
Um,
that would do much for fire. It's more like glare or things where the light is more organized, and fire, it doesn't seem to me like that would
yeah,
do much. But it cuts your light a lot coming into your camera, especially if you have two and
yeah,
have frost, right? So then you're losing a
yeah.
lot of.
Yeah, you're totally right that the fire isn't like super directional. So for me, it cuts enough of the highlighting down that it means I often feel a little bit safer pulling the exposure up, so I lose less detail in the shadows. It is a bit of a trade-off though. Like it's a it's a small little thing that helps a little bit. Um, it's not like the thing that's gonna like totally save a photo though.
Mhm.
I'm gonna grab something that has like larger props and like some lusher fire textures just to show like a before and after of something that's like a little more juicy because these were usually or these were like larger like kind of small fire photos. What do I got? Let's okay. I'm gonna grab some photos from Unscrews to show kind of like a quick before and after when you have like more fire than the small ones at our last jam. All right, so this is from a stage that had like also some external lighting, but was also um lots of very fast moving people and pretty late at night. So these were like kind of like all like the final picks from the show. And at this show, I was bouncing back and forth as a performer and then coming in front of the stage and like taking photos of the other performers when it wasn't on. So a little bit of double duty there. So here would be a good example here. I grab this here. So for something like this, where I'm trying to capture like a lot of like the juicy fire details, so in terms of like settings, so here like I really cooled down the image quite a bit because I really kind of wanted these blues to deepen, and that kind of really helps there be a little bit more contrast than when you have like this really bright warm fire here. So the eye gets, even though you can see kind of like the lines of the legs here, the you're visually still being pulled up to this portion here. Like your eyes often gravitate towards like the warmest part of an image as well as the brightest part of an image. So here you can see like I pulled the highlights down. So if these were not where they were at, you can see how they're a little bit blown out. So just pulling that down a bit not only prevents some of the blowout on the chaps this person is wearing, but also on the fire texture. I also cranked the clarity a little bit because I wanted like a little bit more crispness in what fire detail I did have here. Because there's like some like kind of very bright blue stage lights, didn't feel a need to like change anything color wise really here. Again, beyond kind of the cooling down the overall image. So here was something where I pulled the luminance up. So that's something that kind of has like a smoothing effect. And I really like to do that to kind of help an image feel like a little bit less noisy. If you do it like too much, just like show you what it looks like when it's cranked, it's almost like overly smooth. You get almost sort of this like oil painting effect, which some people really like. I for something like this, which was pretty late night, and I was shooting with like a little bit noisier setting though. This is about what felt comfortable at that time. Um, and something else I threw in here was I did a little bit of vignettes. We had this sort of like weird polka dot background here, which kind of felt like it pulled away from the eyes a bit. So adding like some vignette here helped visually the eyes kind of stay in here, but while still kind of keeping this. I could have gone through with a brush and like gotten rid of all of that. And there are some images where I did do that. But here I didn't want to like totally remove the background, even though it was like a bit distracting. And you can kind of see like similar settings. So this is like the same person a little bit later on. So same with the vignetting, did a little bit around the edges. Also kind of cooled down the image like quite a bit. And here I actually like pulled down the vibrance. because it like felt like such like a bright saturated image, and it was like almost like too much. So sometimes you have stage lights which visually to our eyes look really like yummy and jewel tone, but we can like kind of feel a little bit blown out as soon as you're taking a static image of it. And similar thing here, you can kind of see like I dropped highlights. I actually dropped contrast a fair amount on this too. Like I really wanted um like this person's like face and like their muscle tone to like feel a little bit more even. So when I don't have the contrast drop that far, it like style, this is a stylistic thing. Like I didn't like how like things felt like so much more sharp and defined here. Um I really kind of just mostly wanted like the edges to feel defined. So that's where I kept like the clarity up a little bit, the dehaze up, but kept the contrast down. So this is again, this is like an older set from earlier this spring. To a sense of like when there's bigger fire, what that might look like. Um, okay, I've been talking for a minute here. Any like broad questions about that workflow? Kind of just provided some like very like real examples from recent work here. Let's see. Listening, watching things in background while editing. Um, I think I said this in the chat earlier. For me, like a lot of my editing I do over coffee, right? It's like my brain is still kind of booting up, and it's like just a really nice thing to do to chill and like be really like focused and present on like the person whose photo I'm editing. Sometimes I've done photo editing while like, you know, someone's like playing video games or something in the background. So like there's a whole era of my photography where it's like color graded to look like Elden Rings. So there's, you know, there's that. Um, but largely I prefer to be kind of unfocused. Otherwise, like I would worry that my brain would like get a little bit too distracted and like miss out on things that are really important for the editing process.
Yeah, no, even for me, it's like I love watching movies. I've been a moviegoer like my whole life, so I'll definitely be like I just like having like YouTube. I'll watch other people play video games because I'm too busy editing to play them myself. So it's kind of like I can
Yeah.
live vicariously that way. But yeah, I mean, anyone that saw like my recent Facebook post, I was literally watching Jurassic Park while editing like Tacoma Cabaret.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do have to be careful about like what I'm watching in time zone when I'm editing, because the color grading will start to drift in that direction. I've been like watching like Blue Eye Samurai recently with my partner, and it's just like, oh, it's all it's all gonna look like that, isn't it? uh so just being kind of like a little bit mindful of that. Like you are what you surround yourself, right? And the color palettes you spend around in your spare time are going to end up seeping into the post-processing work, especially when you start like really messing with you know, different like presets. I didn't do like a ton in mine, but you know, if there's a lot that you can play with there.
Any other questions?
See,
I think we're good. Guess guess it's your turn.
Okay, cool. As we've gone through yours and Ray's, it's amazing to see how wildly different our post editing or our editing workflow is. So it's a real treat. But it's just the different tools I've used, it's fantastic to see. All right, we'll go share the screen. Do, do, do. Can you see Windows File Explorer, friends?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, fantastic. So like I just mentioned, our processes are so very different. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about mine and if there's anything I can improve upon. I like to do things this way because I think it's the most efficient that I found, but again, always room for improvement. So, I will take a little bit of a step back and talk about how I like to organize my files and the content that I'm working with before we even get to the editing process. So for photos specifically, I usually just kind of make a set of folders. So for this, this is the editing workshop, and then in here are all the raw photos that came from this event. So I will take everything from my SD cards and my camera, and I will just dump all of the raw photos into here. And then from here, as I cull, I like to use a program called Photo Mechanic. It's by a company called Camera Bits, and I could send out a link if anyone's curious. The reason why I like this so much as opposed to like organizing my files in File Explorer or a Camera Raw or Lightroom or anything like that is because Photo Mechanic doesn't really do anything. And what I mean by that is if I open up an image and I hit my left and right arrow keys or I scroll with my mouse, there is almost zero delay between me pushing a button and something happening on my screen. Having played competitive games for most of my life, specifically real-time strategy games, I am very sensitive to ping or lag, or if I do something and the action doesn't happen right away. So that's why I use this program called Photo Mechanic. And this is the reason why I'm able to, frankly, overshoot when I'm on a scene and I just smash my shutter button down and I just take a billion pictures. It's because I have the confidence that I can go through and I can cull through these things in post very quickly. I can do between 100 to 150 pictures in a minute. So I'm just mashing through as I mark the things that I want to keep. One of the other parts of my culling philosophy is everything that I look at is an automatic reject and I will delete it later unless I like it enough to mark it as keep. So to set another way, everything is a no, and I only take the select yeses, as opposed to everything is a yes, and I remove the no's. And but doing it this way lets me go through a larger volume of stuff, and mentally I have to keep track of less. So you can configure your hotkeys however you want in this program. I have a key that says mark and I want to keep. So if you'll notice there's a little, I don't know, green bar at the bottom right of this screen that I'm toggling on and off. So I am tagging a photo as keep or it just stays as default. So I'm not going to call this chunk, there's like 350 here, but as I look through, I'm just kind of mentally seeing what might look good. Any questions so far? If not, I'm just going to speed through a quick culling of, I don't know, maybe 100 pictures. It'll take like a minute, but I can show you the culling philosophy as I do so. Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to mash through, but what I'm looking at is as I see stuff like this, I think this might be Liz Coleman at Kindle, but they're fire breathing. This is way overexposed. There is zero detail that you will be able to see in this fire. So that's not something that I'm going to keep. But I'm going to keep going through. There's going to be a bunch of out of focus stuff. There's going to be a bunch of stuff where nothing happens because I didn't time it right. Okay, we're getting to things that are a little bit more detailed. So very, very quick. Fire has a trail to it, and I think it kind of has like a lifespan to it. It's starts small, it ignites, it gets bigger, 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 it flourishes, and it dies down. So for this fire breathing, as it's pushing out, it's just kind of like a ball and it hasn't really taken shape yet. But if you go a little bit further, now we're starting to get to the shape of things. Um, I would kind of pick between these. I'd mark one or two of these as good, but the whole purpose of this phase is to mentally kind of not really think about much and just mash through and go quickly and then see what I like and don't like. So a lot of these pictures, like these aren't usable. The Flowers artist isn't looking at me. Nothing exciting is happening. So I think we talked about at the beginning of this meeting our hit rates in terms of like a picture gets taken but versus what we'll actually deliver are quite low. For me personally, it's about 4 or 5%. So I will take 100 pictures and only maybe 4 or 5 of them will make the final album in which I deliver. Which is why I took like 30,000 photos over Kindle weekend and I think I delivered like 1,100. So that's kind of getting into those ratios. But I'll quickly go through. So I'm checking composition. I'm checking is someone's face in focus. I'm checking is the fire looking good? Does it have detail? And I'm kind of going through, do I like the shadows on someone? Do I like how they look? And again, this is just very mentally very quick yes or no, and it's almost like gut reaction. For me, I've just kind of trained this over time, and it's not really something I think about anymore. But initially, those were the things that I was thinking. To speed this process up, I will go towards the end and I will grab things that I know I like. There was a particular picture. I just like fire breathing because I'm biased and I like big fire. I think it's inherently, but you know.
I think someone in our class asked us like, what are you guys like looking for like when you're picking people that's coming through? And we're like, we're just moths. Like the bigger the
Yeah.
fire, the better our images are gonna be. So we're just kind of chase fresh fire.
Mm-hmm. Fresh fire is where it's at. Fun thing about this shoot is this was Friday night and it was raining. So you can see the trails of the raindrops falling in the image if you look closely enough. This one behind Bam, you can kind of see in the background with the fire, like little just streaks of raindrops. I thought it was fun. Anywho, I've gone through. I would have picked more, but for the sake of this presentation, I've only selected a couple and I didn't do a complete cull, but you get the idea. So what I can do now is I select or I filter to only the pictures that I chose to keep. We did a really quick call, but there was like 15 of them that I saw immediately. There would have been more if I spent more time, but again, for the sake of this presentation. Then what I do is back in File Explorer, we already went through all of the raw pictures. I create a new folder called raw pics, and it's exactly what it sounds like. These are the raw images that I have selected as candidates that I think will be good for editing. I go back into Photo Mechanic, I take all of this, I drag it over. Easy peasy. So what you'll notice is, we can close that. It moves all of the raw files over. It also created this little XMP file, which you can completely ignore. It's a little sidecar file that gets made, said a different way. This is how the program knew that that is the photo that I tagged. It is just an extra file. You don't have to care about this anymore. The next thing I do is I open up Lightroom and I make a new catalog. I'm reasonably confident this is not how Lightroom was intended to be made or to be used, but I create a new catalog for each what's the word I'm looking for? For each shoot that I do. This way, nothing ever, no wires ever get crossed. I'm not looking at libraries or other catalogs or collections that I'm not trying to mess with. So I create a new instance of Lightroom in the same project folder that I've been working in. I open up Lightroom and then I'll dump the pictures in. Checkpoint, friends. Any questions so far? Going once, going twice. I'm also doing this on an extremely underpowered laptop, so please bear with me.
I had a quick question
Yeah,
for you.
shoot, go
As you were
for it.
kind of scrolling through, it almost looked like you could have made like GIFs or small clips out of some of those just clips of photos. Do you ever go back and do that?
Sometimes, if requested, almost no one ever does. There's some sequences where I think it's fun and I will, but I think it's happened maybe like a dozen times over the, I don't know, 4 years I've been doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
I have done it once. It was a fire transfer where it was a fire bubble class, and they did like the whole line, and that's like the only time I've ever done it. But yeah, like very rarely do like I get people requesting like GIFs of like stuff like that, and it's also kind of a lot of extra work on its own accord when it's just like I'm also trying to deliver like a full album back. So it's kind of like if I was to do it, it's usually more of like a project for me than somebody else.
yeah. But no, it is really cool. That gives insight to my shooting style too. Like, I think pixels are cheap and I can always delete it later. I'm willing to take way more pictures than I think is really necessary just to ensure that I get the moment correctly. Because, fire changes very quickly. You're gonna see details in one ball of fire that looks very different a fraction of a second later, or people's micro expressions on their face, the way their mouth is shaped, or the way the light hits their face, or they blink, or any number of things that can change within fractions of a second. I want to make sure I capture that. Any more questions? Going once, and twice. Okay, so what I do is I take all of those pictures from that raw pics folder and I just dump it in. I selected the XMP files just because I'm lazy. Lightroom will just ignore it and say, hey, we can't import this, and then it doesn't complain anymore. So I take these photos in. There was 15 of them. And then these are already culled. Now I go through. So I do a couple of things that I set up in advance. I have my own what's the word? Preset that I've created for myself. It does not adjust colors. It just uses AI to select things like the foreground and the background and subjects and all the other stuff. I called it subject separation. You can call it whatever you want. I apply it to every single photo that I ever edit. Once I apply it to all of them, I will walk through what I did to create this and why I did so. So, if I can move the Zoom window. This is the underpowered laptop part coming into play. But I'll verbally say this, and then we'll go into the details. There are a couple of things that you can do as a photo editor to change where people's eyes gravitate towards in a photo. So one thing that you can do is focus. So you can use focus to separate the foreground and background from each other, or the model from the background. You can use lightness and darkness, so like exposure values and contrast. You can use colors, and you can use composition. So for composition, for me, that's taken care of in really, I kind of get the composition when I'm doing the photo, when I'm taking the photo initially. So pre-production, like as I'm capturing in the event, and I'll refine it later in post. But everything else for like lightness and darkness, focus and color, I can more or less touch here. So we're almost there. There we go. Okay. So what I've done for this photo, for example, this doesn't really work as well for fire breathing. So I'll try to like find a person spinning and a model. Okay. For example, these are the bunch of masks that I've created when I did that preset. There's a couple that exist. So two of them are just vignettes. I took a gradient and I selected the inside and I bumped that value by 0.1 for the exposure. I just wanted some slight separation between foreground and background. So if I toggle this mask, it's incredibly subtle, but there's a small difference in this area marked by this oval. So you can see the difference in like brightness and darkness. And then I inverted that mask and then I reduced it by 0.1. So again, incredibly subtle vignettes. The other thing that is done is it will highlight the background for me using the AI features within Lightroom. And then I made the background a little bit darker. I made the foreground a little bit brighter. The cumulative effect of this, oops, look like this. So what I'm doing is there's a little key. It's like the vertical pipe and I think the backslash. And that allows you to toggle what you see in Lightroom before the changes to the photo have taken place. So the photo raw as is, and then what alterations you've done to it. So this isn't really meant to do too much to the image itself, but it lays the foundation for myself. If I wanted to tweak certain parts of the image, I apply this filter to everything. I go eat dinner or something else, and I come back later, and then all of these things are applied. But now, for any photo that I touch, I can just quickly look at the mask that I grabbed, and I can change for values on just that thing. So like right now, I'm only touching the subject and I'm just swinging the exposure all over the place, but the changes are only constrained to the subject. Because sometimes you want the subject to pop out a little bit and in relation to the background. So that just lets me set up my workspace easily to go and do so. The next thing I do, which I've been told people don't enjoy, but I go to the levels setting and I hit auto. and I just let Lightroom decide what it thinks is best for that image, it only gets it right about 20% of the time, which is fine. For more other traditional non-fire things, it works really well. But for fire specifically, it's like 20% of the time. But from there, I will then make adjustments. So, for example, this fire spinning photo or fire breathing photo. I think it made everything a little bit too warm. It killed the whites too much, and in my opinion, at the moment, it doesn't look good. But you can see the difference, the very stark difference between the original image and Lightroom's attempt at editing this. But from this, I just kind of edit things in matters of taste. Like, I want to bring some of these highlights. Oh, okay, there's that lag that I was talking about. I do something and it's not what I want. Okay, so I brought some of the highlights back to bring a little bit more life to this fire. I think this whole thing is a tad warm, so I will drop the temperature. And I'm just kind of doing things as I feel from when I look at the image. There's no checklist in order of sliders that I'm playing with. I'm just kind of going by what my eye sees and what I want the final image to look like. So I will play with the highlights and the shadows and the blacks. I personally really like dehaze. I think what's the word? It likes to deepen colors. It's not quite saturation, so I'll explain the difference. If I throw the saturation slider, this is the effect that it has. For this photo here, it kind of makes things a little too orangey and it makes Liz's skin a little too red, in my opinion. Whereas if I'm dehazing, use this gently, but it just kind of, I don't know how to say other, but it deepens, it boldens the colors a little bit, and I think it brings things out a little bit more. So I would spend, I don't know, per image, on an average image, I'll probably spend like maybe 15 to 20 seconds, but on what I call like hero images or things that I want to add to my portfolio or things like, wow, that's a damn good photo, I'll spend a little bit more time, maybe up to a minute, going through. For fire breathing specifically, there's a lot of particulates in the air because when they spit the gas or whatever they're using into the air, you can see like the little droplets. I like to bring that out. So there's two sliders, there's texture and clarity. And I like to bump this a little bit and I like to bump that a little bit. For example, if I really swing up the clarity, you can see how crispy it gets the photo. I think this is too much, but you can kind of see what this slider does. My recommendation is if you're unfamiliar with these settings, just slam these things left and right, really go to all extremes, and then you can kind of pick out how the effect is applied to your photo. So I will go to here, and then I like to level my images. So right side is up, left and or up is up and down is down, and I like to make things level with the horizon line. So I will adjust things, I think, a little bit, constrain and crop it so you don't get these like weird um, not parts of the picture showing. So it'll crop in so you don't have those weird cutouts. But now this would be a final image that I am happy to deliver and I think looks really good. And then I will hit that key that toggles the before and after just to check my work. This is the before and this is the after. Before, after. Before, after. Any questions so far? I covered a lot of things. I also can't see chat.
Not seeing anything fresh in the chat,
Okay,
but if other
cool.
folks have things they want to chime in on. Oh yeah, Nina, yeah, we have very different approaches. I think if you get
Super
anything out of
different.
this, it's
Yeah.
like there's no one way to do this. You can find the thing that makes the most sense to the particulars of your own biology, your own neural architecture. Like, I have never been a gamer. Like this rapid fire, like coke. Like
Go. Yeah.
that would never work for my brain. I need to like chill in front of coffee, right? But like we've all got different brains. That's fine. You can kind of sculpt a process that works for you.
So I play a hell of a lot of StarCraft and like my actions per minute.
I'm
So
so
like
sorry for your tendons.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Copy
But like
everything.
my actions per minute, like the number of keyboard inputs that I put is in like the 100 to 250. It depends on what's happening in the game, but like I peak at like 250 actions per minute, which is a disgusting amount of key presses, but like that's just how I'm used to operating. My
Yeah,
brain processes information very quickly as I'm just mashing things. Um,
yeah,
it's very, very different.
Yeah, and
yeah. It's oh, go ahead.
it's like even for me where it's just like actually to answer that question because I do not edit in Lightroom. I edit in technically Camera Raw, which is built into Photoshop. And the reason why I started doing that was because it was in Camera Raw, if I delete an image, it goes straight to the trash when I'm done. So like I can like click over, it's like cool, I've gone through all these images. I click done. It will save everything that I've selected, so it saves all my settings that I've like anything I've touched, anything I've done, it saves all the settings. But anything I have marked for deletion, it goes straight to the trash because I do not keep what I do not use.
Yeah. So actually,
Yep,
on that
amen to
note,
that.
yeah, because storage is not cheap, and I probably hoard way more data than I should have. But if I look, how do I move the zoom bar? Zoom bar? Zoom bar. Okay. So if we go back to like my file explorer, this raw pics folder are only my pics. Everything that is in this raw folder, I can now delete and not worry about it. So when I'm done or I need to reclaim space on my drives, I can just go here and hit delete. But I can take care of this process outside of my workflow so it doesn't slow me down. For me, the biggest thing is speed during culling, turning my brain off and just getting through this as fast as I possibly can. And anything that delays that, even the tenths of a second of displaying the picture on the screen, to me is agonizing because when I'm going through 30,000 photos for Kindle, we'll do some very quick math. 30,000 photos, tenth of a second delay on every photo. That's 3,000 seconds, which comes out to what, 50 minutes? That means I would have spent 50 minutes purely waiting for photos to load. That is unacceptable by my standards. So that's why I choose tools that allow me to blaze through this as fast as I can. Granted, I can always shoot less in pre. I'm a chronic overshooter, and I 100% accept this about myself. But I'm leaning into how I view the world, how my neurobiology works, and the things that I enjoy. So I'm optimizing where I can, and I'm just kind of shrugging off parts that I'm unwilling to change.
Yeah, I think something else that's really helpful to emphasize here is like you guys kind of saw like us kind of work through like jam photos, and we have like different workflows for like when we're editing something out of like a low stake fire jam versus what we might do for like a professional setting, right?
Yeah,
When we have
that
like
does
a
matter.
client who has like something specifically that they're asking for there. So we like I would normally do like 2 or 3 or more passes with someone where I'm going back and forth with the person that I'm working with to make sure that the editing really meets their needs. And we're not going to do that for a fire jam.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
Yeah.
we take way too many. All of us take way too many photos for that.
yeah, it's a lot to get through for just one jam. And again, it's just like the time it takes for us to
Yeah.
like cull through all of that. It just takes so long. And I know for like me personally, it's kind of like I would have loved to show you guys like when I'm doing a performance, like when I'm photographed Tacoma Cabaret, like the culling process through that is entirely different as far as what I'm looking for. Because again, there are a lot of things that like moves that like looking out for, but at the same time, there are also it's just like it gets really risky and the photos look really raunchy because it's just like I don't know what the moves are coming. So there's a lot of like crotch shots that it's just like this has
Ah,
got to go, and like I'm sorry, but I'm not showing those photos to you guys.
that's a different album. Yeah.
That is a totally different album that does not exist.
Oh yeah, shooting like boudoir or like sexy photos like that. I don't edit those the same way I edit fire photos.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, very, very different.
And
Yeah.
even the editing process, like for me, it's just like because again, with like a performance, like performances like that, where it's like here's the full show, like to me, it's just like each performance is kind of sets a different tone. So even the color balancing that I do for it is even different. The presets that I use for it are completely different. Like how the stage lighting is usually completely different. So again, it's kind of like each act that I photograph, I try to approach with a different mindset of like, what is the performer trying to portray in this? Like, what is the light setup trying to tell me that I'm like need to edit for? And so again, it's kind of like, all right, cool, I'll do this one as this muted tone, or I'll do like this vintage style because it's a very classic like burlesque act. But then I get someone that's trying to do a very like modernistic dance piece. It's just like, no, I want like the high vibrancy of it because I can tell that's kind of what the piece is asking for. As far as file storages, I use external drives. I use SSD cards that are portable for me. I have like what, three or four of them right now. So because I also will edit on the go. So and I'd rather like I will be on road trips with people and I'm literally on my laptop editing photos as everybody else is driving. So it is one of those things. So I like to be able to have it on the go and not having access to the internet is kind of hard. So I tried to be like, I will take my stuff with me wherever I go.
Yeah, so some of you have heard the drama of my hard drive backup problems over the last 2 months. And part of why the Kindle photos were late is I didn't back up my photos on my laptop in time, and then ended up having it was a logic board failure, had to do it a very expensive and time-consuming drive recovery process. So don't be me. Update and back up your photos frequently, often, and if you can, like a cloud-based one and a hard drive-based one. Don't be me and have to spend thousands of dollars retrieving your stuff. So just putting in that plug. In Seagate, I just put this in the chat, was actually running a really good sale yesterday. Might still be going if you want to pick up a nice 22 terabyte hard drive. I had been kind of just getting by with like buying like 2 to 4 terabyte ones, and then like they're filed by year. But with kind of this larger one, I'm planning on just kind of having like a continual backup system. So thinking ahead on that.
If anyone wants to talk like storage solutions, I've built a lot of my own just because it's cheaper to do it that way than buying an off-the-shelf product. But like I have almost 160 terabytes of storage available, and I think it only cost me like maybe a grand. Granted, I do this professionally, so like that's where the money goes, and I understand that. But it's a really cheap storage solution. Cheap being the relative term. To buy a solution or a product like that off the shelf would be several thousands of dollars. So your mileage will vary. Also for backup solutions, I use Backblaze. And what it does is it backs up everything on your computer to the cloud, and you can retrieve this from anywhere in the world through a secure access portal, through their website or through their client. But I can sleep calmly at night knowing everything that's on my computer is now accessible anywhere I want it to be, and it lives in multiple locations. So if anything were to go down, I can always retrieve these files at a later time. And there are enterprise solutions, but for like a regular person, $7 a month. I think I pay like $15 a month because I just have a bunch of storage, but it's really, really palatable in price for what you're getting. That is all. Cool. Well, this was fun. I hope you guys had a nice time. Do you have any closing questions? Anything that's burning in your mind?
I'll note there were a few other like things that people mentioned like really early on, like what about one for modeling, or like, hey, could you talk about camera
Yeah.
settings again? So I think there's definitely some room maybe to do some more workshops. So if you have thoughts on that, I did write down the ones from earlier, and we can chat amongst ourselves and see what we have capacity for.
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing it seemed like after people saw the photos from the witching hour, it looks like a lot of people wanted to do a modeling workshop from us. And it's definitely one of those things like I'd be more than happy to work with people on that aspect and would love to have a bunch of other like people with modeling experience to kind of explain their thought process on that one because it's like I can explain the thought process from my side, but again, like trying to help other people understand modeling is always one of those things like you learn a lot more from other models than you will from other photographers.
Yeah. Maybe this is a January thing when I'm up in the area again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for also letting us like experiment with talking about post-processing with you guys. We weren't quite sure like what the best approach would be. So also if you guys have feedback on whether it was useful to see the live workflows or if there's like a more structured approach you'd prefer us to take, that would be really helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is one of those things, like again, there's a lot of stuff out there too. I will say, like, I know a lot of times when I get people asking me about post processing, um, we're all on the Adobe line. So obviously, like, because it's valued to us. But if you are someone that's like kind of looking into it and not entirely sure, there are some really good free programs out there. I've heard nothing but good things about GIMP. GIMP, as a free photo editing software for it. Like there's premium stuff to it that they have like a bunch of other features that added to it. But as far as a basic photo editor program, it is, to my understanding, really, really good. So definitely look
Yeah.
into that one.
GIMP also has Photoshop skins that you can apply to it to make it look and feel a little bit closer to Photoshop. There are also a number of places that you can find Photoshop on the high seas. I'll let you figure out and navigate those waters, but it exists.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care. I hope everyone is going to have a lovely rest of their holiday weekend. If it wasn't restful, I know for some people holidays are stress, but hopefully the rest of it can have some 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 convalescence from everything happening in the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll likely be doing some other things in the future, so stay tuned.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much. This was amazing.
Excellent. Glad to have
Glad
you.
it helped. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good job.
It worked. All right, I gotta go scamper to go do a photo shoot, but I think we got everyone off the chat now. All right, Arlene, I'll see you when I see you.